Today's video is a very special video, ups, downs, and all-around connections that you'd expect from something like the final season of Attack on Titan. Thanks to newfound information from Clam and Snaliel, I can tell you Joe's YBA's future is looking more uncertain than I've ever thought possible. Before I begin, hate to ruin the mood, but this is in fact a YouTube channel and my main source of income, so if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and subscribing down below, join the Discord server for updates, exclusive content, and giveaways, and consider joining the channel with the join button down below for even more exclusive content. Without further ado, bring out your scuba gear, because we're taking a deep dive into the oceanic abyss that is the Revered Stone Free Update. Thanks to the incredible level of support I got on my most recent video from you all, I managed to get into contact with none other than Clam himself, as he offered to DM in the comments shortly after the video had gone up. Before I get into what he had to say about why he left and the state of YBA as a whole, I have to give a disclaimer that a lot of what he said has been disputed by both Paragon, the community manager and the forefront of Uzu's public image, and Snaliel, Uzu's close friend and probably the developer that has done the most for YBA, second only to Uzu himself. He was also Clam's close friend and was directly involved in the situation, so he's also a first-hand source in the matter. What Clam had to tell me, again, could potentially be the furthest from the truth you could ever possibly stray, but at the same time, there's the argument to be made for it, so I'll be giving each side an equal spotlight in today's video. Speaking of arguments, don't be that one kid that tries to make this a big deal by harassing one party or the other for something. The last thing I want to do here is make a huge mess of things, and Clam, Snaliel, and Paragon, along with, I assume, everybody involved in the situation, have agreed not to cause any drama or escalate it any further. Sorry for the huge mouthful of warnings, this isn't a fucking nuclear warhead we're dealing with, but it might as well be considering how volatile the community can be on things like this. With all of that said, make sure you got some stable oxygen levels because we're diving into the first layer of the iceberg. Now, Clam requested that I sum up most of what he sent me, which I'll take to heart here. I started off with the question that everyone's probably been asking, of course that being why he left the YBA development team, and his answer goes deeper than I could have ever possibly imagined. It's not as one-dimensional as, oh, he wasn't being paid enough, or oh, well, Uzu wasn't satisfied with his meowing and replaced him with a different kitten. This thing is long enough to write a book about. The reasons go beyond 2D and 3D and gain the power of time as they transcend our reality and gain a fourth dimension. The iceberg goes deep, but I can only really show you the surface, so, in summary, Clam left because of a lack of passion or care from Uzu regarding his developers and his game. In short, Uzu's been, according to Clam, completely unethical with the way he treats his developers. I mean, the conditions he described were akin to something you'd hear from the fucking Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Heavy expectations from the devs and yet zero effort from Uzu himself. Cutting corners wherever possible to save a few dimes from his wallet or seconds from his day, going so far as to remove visual features from Stone Free entirely just because of a camera bug that Clam found an easier and higher quality way to fix. According to Clam, there have been several incidents like this, but this was a final straw, knowing that after all of his hard work, Stone Free would have probably been reduced and reduced until it resembled a gray mush of strings and sadness. He ghosted Uzu and anyone from the YBA team, and he lived happily ever after. Next, I asked him for a bit of background info that I probably should have started with instead. He told me that he had almost finished a Crazy Diamond rework before it was shelved in favor of Stone Free. He also, of course, scripted Killer Queen Bites the Dust rework and Star Platinum Zora Beatdown rework. Before he leaving, he had also started on Soft and Wet, and he had lined up a rework for both Cream and Purple Haze. Basically, everything we've all been screaming for he's been trying to get done. And if that wasn't enough, he even tried to improve SBR's anti-cheat. But yeah, that didn't really work out too well, evident by how many hackers you still find in that forsaken land untouched by God himself. One thing I got correct in my video is that Uzu does not, in fact, have any more scripters to do his bidding save for himself, except allegedly he's too lazy to do much himself. Shocker. Oh, whoa, editor jump scare. I'm sorry to interrupt here. I just thought I would leave a little note here that I forgot to put it in the actual script and that somebody actually pointed out and I thought was really important, so I decided to repost the video. You might be asking the one thing that I didn't actually answer about Clam and his leave, and that would be, why did he leave GPO? I mean, you explained why he left YBA, but that's not really adding up if we don't know why he left GPO. And the reason why he did that is, as he states, not for payment reasons, just quick work. He didn't really dedicate himself to it, definitely not as much as YBA or his own work. He only just did a little bit of development until he just decided, oh, I mean, I'm done with my work. I'll be heading out now, you know? He was never really considered an actual dev, so that was wrong on my part. So he really just only did a little bit on that part, and he just doesn't really work for GPO. He never really did, in fact. Enjoy the rest of the video. I'll be honest, Clam had me hook, line, and sinker initially. I saw the allegations and I mean, believable enough, right? Uzu's a lazy piece of shit, that's what everyone believes nowadays. I'll just write a script about that, watch the revenue flow in, and be done with my day. Wrong! Snaliel, about the closest a commoner like me can possibly get to talking to Uzu himself, came out and told me the other side of this story about as soon as I was going to start writing the script for this video. Oddly enough, he friend requested me completely unexpectedly without me even asking, which I have to respect for the sheer dedication and commitment to go out of your way to do that. And well, he broke this entire situation down piece by piece for all of us to know. The same story, just seen from a different lens. The differences are about as stark and polarizing as it gets. Reading the two accounts side by side feels like the fucking latest Attack on Titan episode where Zeke and Eren review the founding Titans' memories, and they're the same memories, but Zeke has his way at times and Eren at others. Similarly, these accounts are basically two sides of the same coin. Same story and everything, yet told from a new perspective. So once again, folks, check your oxygen meters and make sure they're on full. We're diving deeper into the iceberg. Snaliel, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, for those who don't know, is the visual effect designer for YBA, and he's been taking that role since the Anubis update. You've probably noticed a stark difference between the complete dogshit that Uzu's been putting out before the Anubis update and the utter eye candy that Uzu's been putting out after it. Yeah, that's God's magic at work. Snaliel, watching from the heavens, making sure every Joe is treated to a nice visual treat when they get ganked by a gang, or I guess flock of Red Hot Chili Peppers, or I mean, what the fuck even is that thing? Is it a bird or what? Like, why does it have a rat tail? Decide, Rocky, god. Well, anyways, you may have noticed there was a massive spike in the frequency of updates around the Anubis and RHCP period of YBA. Yeah, that's because Uzu and Snaliel were on the grind. Consistent updates was the name of the game, which is sort of biased on Snaliel's account because I have definitive proof that the name of the game is actually Your Bizarre Adventure, but let's not sweat the small details. Uzu, being the complete nerd that he is, was getting too busy with school to handle the grind, and I don't blame him because prioritizing a LEGO anime game ahead of your future is what I like to call a half-brain cell move. Therefore, Uzu thought of a good idea, which I've been saying since day one. Bring on developers that do the work for you. In exchange, you get the updates without lifting a finger. Enter stage left, War Clam. Snaliel's then close friend and the hero of our story here, or villain depending on which side you root for. Clam would script the stands, Snaliel would do the visual effects, and Uzu would add him into the game. The Holy Trinity had been completed. Until the fated Stone Free conflict. This is where the stories diverge, and this is where things start to get a little iffy. Read sort of like in part 7 where Funny Valentine uses that trick on Johnny and has 3 different people shoot him at the same time and everyone's like, wait, who the hell actually shot Johnny? Snaliel doesn't bring up anything about Uzu's brutality or conditions, jumps straight to the aforementioned camera bug. Warclam allegedly comes up with a quote-unquote easy method to fix it instead of a proper method. I guess a proper method like removing it entirely, but whatever. Now, on their side of the story, Clam actually ends up delaying Stone Free, as Uzu didn't want to release it before paying Clam for the scripts. They're stuck in a stalemate for a month until Uzu decides to remove Clam's dev role in the Discord server in hope that would make Clam reply back. However, Clam decides instead to leave the Discord server entirely. In the end, Clam's scripts were terrible, ironically, and to this day they say Uzu is still rewriting Stone Free's scripts. And here's a little bit of proof from Snaliel that Uzu was going to release Stone Free in January, had it not been for Clam's immature decisions. Of course, with these conflicting accounts, we're left with a lot more questions than answers, so I thought I'd hit up some other former devs and see what they thought. I like not to rope them in, so they're going to stay anonymous, but they had basically the same tone towards Uzu and how he treats his developers. They brought up a good point, actually. If you go into YBA right now and hit the credits button that's been hiding right under our noses this entire time, the button that literally no one in YBA history has ever pressed, you'll notice that an overwhelming majority of the developers have already come and gone. Why could that be? The former dev claims it's because Uzu is a money-hungry piece of shit that puts profit above people. Again, not really a surprise considering how many skins we've gotten in the past year. And look, I'm not here to taint Uzu's reputation, which is already pretty bad, and I'm not here to spark a new war. I'm just here to get to the bottom of this absolute clusterfuck of greed and immaturity. So let's get into the part where I offer up my own opinion on this matter. Spoiler alert, I'm not taking a side. Think about it this way. If we take only the side of former developers, surely there's gonna be negative bias, right? If they thought the dev team was all rainbow sparkles and unicorn farts, why would they leave? But if we take only the sides of Uzu and his currently standing dev team, you'll notice that they'll probably have a positive bias for Uzu because, well, they haven't left yet, and they don't want the ship to sink with them still inside. So, what are we left with? A stalemate? A cruel tie in which the only winner is probably Uzu, because no matter what happens, he'll still have a stable fan base of skin-hungry 5-year-olds that got dropped on their head as babies. Everyone else loses, former devs, the current devs, and of course, tonight's biggest loser, the community, who's still waiting for just one more stand update, like a kid whose parents forgot to pick him up from school, ever waiting for a car that'll never show up on time. Though, putting aside the fucking social studies sourcing that I just did, I believe there's a lot of truth in both accounts of the story, and a lot of mistakes on both sides anyways. First off, I understand Clam's situation was dire, but I don't think there was any good reason for him to completely ghost them like that. As Snaliel proclaimed, it was his unprofessionalism that got Stonefree delayed, and I believe that holds true no matter if Uzu was a complete sate who was just trying to get an update done, or a lazy piece of shit that wanted as much money as possible without lifting a finger. Though, there's also an interesting thing to be said on the quality of Clam's and Uzu's work. Clam proclaims that Stonefree was his best work to date, and yet Uzu is stuck rewriting code to this day before he can release it. Clam proclaims that his way of fixing it was better for the quality of Stonefree and easier to do, and while Snaliel agrees it was easier, he phrases it in a way that makes it sound like it'd be worse for Stonefree's quality if this was to come to fruition. And what I believe all that boils down to is creative differences. I don't think there's an objectively right way to code Stonefree, it's really up to the eyes of the beholder. Programming styles exist, and it could just be that Clam and Uzu had conflicting programming styles. Though, of course, all that is putting aside the conditions that the developers have had to face, which I would get into, but that'd start up a whole other drama that I really do not want to start. But in summary, I don't think either side is objectively right or wrong, just like the Will versus Uzu drama. Uzu could certainly treat his developers better, but the way Clam handled it was short-sighted and selfish. And of course, we all make mistakes. In a time of distress, I'm sure some of us out there would have done the same, so I don't blame him too hard for it. But yeah, there's your answer. It's all debunked now. Stonefree was, in fact, due to release by January, but a developer scuffle has delayed it further. Basically, for the Joes that really couldn't give lesser of a shit about what happens behind the scenes, what this means for us is, well, kinda grim. Stonefree will release in the next month, and that's 100% certain, even though last time I said that it ended up completely missing the mark. This time I have solid evidence to base my claims on. Just a little more debugging from Uzu and we'll be in the clear. Though, past that, the future is looking a little sucky. Clam's leave is certainly going to slow down updates coming out with Uzu in school and or being lazier than a sloth, no matter what Paragon says. It's really nice that the possibilities of reworks for stupid-ass stands like Crazy Diamond, Purple Haze, and Cream have been increased, though not entirely 100% due to Clam's leave, but at the same time, there's no confirmation of anything besides that. I mean, Clam leaving justifies Stonefree being late, but what's the excuse for 0 bug fixes or balance changes in the past months? Boxing is still OP as fuck and Uzu hasn't done shit about it, let alone literally every broken stand in the game. Made in Heaven, the world over heaven, time stop still exists, mind you. The only real hope we've gotten other than stands is that the SBR anti-cheat has come to the attention of the devs, but with Clam gone, who even knows if Uzu will care enough to continue that work? Let alone new game modes or quests. Of course we're not getting the Paragon Prestige system, but it also sucks that it's not being confirmed. Of course, Uzu could go ahead and add 3 new storylines, 5 game modes, and a literal endless Prestige system tomorrow. It's not that it's deconfirmed, but it's not confirmed either. And of course, Clam only really coded stands, whether that was because Uzu didn't want to add anything but stands, or that was because Uzu was the only one that can really add or change content besides stands. I mean, we may never know. As I mentioned earlier, all this gives a lot of room for uncertainty, and the only things we really know for sure is that Stonefree is coming in the next month. After that, well, I mean, who knows? Uzu could get new developers, but considering YBA's history, I believe it'll just lead to more drama and more delays in a few more months after hiring. Probably for the better that Uzu doesn't hire more developers. I mean, Uzu has a lower employee retention rate than Activision Blizzard Entertainment. On the flip side, however, if Uzu could start treating his developers and his game with greater care than his wallet, we could start to see a massive change in the rate of updates. YBA could possibly be saved from its downward spiral. But that, of course, is up to Uzuki, the man behind it all. Uzu, for the sake of the community you created, for the sake of the game you created, you have to start caring. This is the story that you started, isn't it? That's about all I have left to say. Again, thank you guys all for watching, especially those who are listening right now and watched all the way to the end. I know this has been a long video, but the lore behind the YBA development process has been way longer, so this is probably the most I can condense it without losing the crucial details. Your sacrifice will be remembered in the form of ad revenue that I'll probably use to buy a McDouble at McDonald's or something. So yeah, if you enjoyed and you didn't like the video earlier, then I'd recommend you like the video, or you might get a funny little package in the mail tomorrow. All I'm saying, it might be a little fragile. And most importantly, subscribe so that I can feel popular. Join the Discord for cool stuff, join the channel to see my videos early, and see you all next time.